Many thanks for the emails. Here's an email from Jonathan, who's in York. Hello, Jonathan. We're going around the country this morning, aren't we? Yeah. He says, hello, Mike. Can I ask you if you're the Mike Allen who was working on talkSPORT when it was talk radio? Yes. Very same. It's great to hear again. Well, that's very kind. Thank you, Jonathan. Nice to hear from you. We're talking about who you might want to vote for PM or as your MP. And here's one from Mark in Birmingham. He said, I nominate Jeremy Clarkson for PM, someone who speaks his mind and's got pride in his country, with James Whale as deputy. There's nothing wrong with that. See, I haven't got a job there. Don't think I'm not crying in my pillow. We were talking about wild animals being released into the world in Northumberland and certain parts of Scotland's northern territories. Things like lynx and wolves and things like that. And it was interesting because someone sent me an email saying, this is going to be quite exciting, isn't it, when we go on a picnic? And someone else followed that up a few minutes later saying, well, they're only going to make their way into the towns and the cities, just like foxes do. Another email from Howard. He said, this is madness. These creatures died out, probably because they didn't get enough to eat, because there was insufficient wildlife for them to live off of. I just hope that the people who've got this as an idea fixed in the front of their head just have some second thoughts about it, just for a moment. We've had quite a few calls from people who phoned up and said, I don't want to go on the air, but I just want to say that I am worried about the mortgage payments on my property, and if it goes up in interest rates, it's going to make it a bit tougher for us. If you're in that situation and you'd like to talk about it, happy to hear. It's 08704 20 20 20. Or text on 81089 or email talksport.net. Now, there was a little piece I put over here that I thought I'd share with you. There it is. Thanks very much. One nomination only for Pink Floyd for the UK Music Hall of Fame. My question to you was, who would you nominate? Doesn't have to be a British act. No. No doubt. You'll have some thoughts on it. So, meanwhile, back to the figures out yesterday showing that inflation rose 2.5% in August, the fourth time in a row it's exceeded the government's 2% target. The Bank of England is expected to have little choice but to raise interest rates from 4.75 as a result, forcing more homeowners into arrears. Or possible arrears, not obligatory arrears. Let's have a chat to Abdul. Hello, Abdul. Hello, Abdul.
How you doing?
All right, you sound a bit more cheerful today.
Yeah, but you think I was sounding terrible yesterday?
Well, you seemed a bit despondent.
No, I mean, the last thing you were saying, I'm a bit negative.
Yeah, well, I thought I would spare you the despondent at the time, because...
No, I'm not despondent at all, even though it was all heavy stuff I was talking about and dire circumstance for the world because of the way it was going on.
Oh.
But myself, I'm full of optimistic hope, and we should remember, should remain that way for a long time. Oh. Without hope, I've got nothing, really.
Oh. Because I said to John, who you spoke to just now, I said, I do hope he's all right.
Yeah, well, no, I'm okay, yeah. I'm more than okay, yeah.
Oh, good. So we were talking about mortgages, and everyone's concerned about that because it's sort of the bedrock of our lives, isn't it? Where appropriate.
Well, do you know what the word mortgage means?
I can't.
A literal translation. It's a French word.
It involves death, doesn't it?
The grip of death.
The grip of death.
So you can see that my conversation yesterday was probably more light-hearted than what this one could turn out to be.
Yes, it's definitely not. It wouldn't be right to say all together now. Then, the grip of death.
The grip of death. Yeah, I found that out. There's a fantastic book called that, named by a chap called Michael Rowbotham, and in this book he outlines basically the trace of money from the existence. You know, there used to be a bartering economy where people would exchange goods.
Yes.
And goes right through it, and as a recommended read for anybody, you just go into Amazon and hey presto. He's also got another book about the American system. I think it's called The Dollar Empire. He talks about Pax Americana, how the banking system that runs the world, every country is indebted to the World Bank or the IMF, even the American government.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, America has got 4 times the debt of all the world put together.
Probably. I've got a huge debt. And they were talking in Wall Street the other day, according to a financial paper I was reading, and somebody was saying they were using the recession word quite a lot. So things could go bad. But if they go bad for America, they're going to go bad. It will just echo around the world.
Well, if history is anything to go by, and it certainly generally is, that if you look at the oil price has risen to the highest ever levels. Well, it had done up to a couple of months ago. It's maybe come off it a wee bit. The highest levels in any time for recent memory. And if you look back very quickly, yeah, sorry.
Yes, I was paying over 100 pence a litre the other day, about 103, I think.
It's come down a wee bit now, and I'm looking at garage forecourt now. It's 90.
Oh, really? I said I was paying about 103 a litre, £1.03 a litre.
And now that's for diesel, yeah.
No. Just the high output unleaded.
All right.
Yeah.
That's always a wee bit more expensive, but yeah.
yeah, it was a little bit more, but I think if you're buying your fuel out of a city, then there's every opportunity for you to pay a bit more, because you're not going to run out of juice, are you?
Yeah, true.
I didn't realise you were running a garage.
No, I'm not. I'm just sitting outside the garage, and I'm a taxi driver.
Oh, right.
That's obviously, I was just looking at the forecourt just ahead of me and the price there. But the thing I was about to say, Mike, was that if you look at the price of oil just now, there's been times before when the oil, the price hasn't got to such a high level. It's got to quite a high, they call it a spike.
Yes.
And then it's come down a bit after a few short months.
Right.
But you'll find that in the last 2 years, with the oil price being so high, usually it sits sometimes around about $20, maybe $30. And there was a time when there was the first Gulf War, and it rose to about 50, 60, just only for a short period of time, and then came back down to what they would call the status quo normal levels. So what you find is with the effect that oil has on the economy,
absolutely.
With the oil price being that high, it's caused, in recent memory, in the early 90s and the early 80s, the early 80s being the more pronounced recession, global recession, and in the 90s, a slightly less recession, but both of them were caused by oil crisis. And then you would go back further to the 70s. So what you'll find is that, yes, we are heading for a world global recession because the oil price is so high.
And there's nothing in the UK that's not shipped by road at some point in its distribution.
Yeah, and that's where that book, The Grip of Death, goes into how the effects of a short-term viewpoint to the economy has a disastrous effect for the whole country in terms of transport, where companies have got to... There's companies out there that can go out of business when they're turning a profit. Now, it seems silly that companies go out of business if they're only maybe making 3-4% on an annual basis, because if they're indebted to the bank and they've got to be turning in maybe about 10% extra, then they're going to go out of business.
Yeah, well, that's a real danger, Abdul. It's a real danger.
And as a result, well, as I say, this book goes into the fact with the fact that companies have always got to face more growth, and as such they've got to expand their markets to further and wider areas. So, you could have, you've got a situation where, say in the centre of Scotland, say somewhere like Dunfermline, there could be a big massive place producing lighters, right? We'll just do it down to a basic equivalent or something, eggs, and it has a distribution base all over the Scotland, coming from a central point. People might think, well, that's sensible and that's good, but if you look to the impact on, the environment with the fuel of transporting, whereas what you could have is smaller, more local produced farmers, i.e. to produce the eggs, and they wouldn't have to go out. But as a necessity, if you look at it, if you look at business in the capitalist system, it's all about consolidation. So companies have got to come together in order to compete, because always in the capitalist system, bigger is better. And you get ridiculous situations like a company who produces milk in America. And this is documented in another film that anybody who would like to know about how the corporations work is called The Corporation.
Yes.
Noam Chomsky and Michael Moore, Naomi Klein, and various people talking about how big business operates, and it's a must-read for everybody. And there was a company, I won't say the name, but it's an American, well-known TV channel, right-wing with extreme viewpoints, but they've just taken over this, at the time, just a small franchise in English Chicago, and the two journalists had done a report, and they'd done it into a company who produced for the Vietnam War Agent Orange, Monsanto. And now this company was giving, and it showed you that in this video, The Corporation, it was showing you the advertising video that Monsanto was doing to give antibiotics to the cow. And this is how it was sold to the farmer.
Yeah.
It will reduce the infections in the cows, and it will give you more milk.
And if you take a look at the size of the average American, they're appreciably bigger in many areas, not all, but in many areas across the US than their European counterparts. And when they rebuilt the Dodgers Stadium in New York, they lost somewhere around 3,000 seats because the great American posterior had got to such a size that they wouldn't fit the original seats. And that's the truth. I've got to move on, Abdul. A couple of things to tell you about. Alan Brazil Sports Breakfast with Alan Brazil and Jeremy Beecroft starts at 6 o'clock this morning as we vacate the building. talkSPORT's Sport Breakfast. You can smell the tennis shoes from here. It's Mike Allen in for Ian Collins and Chetty, and they'll be back on Wednesday next week. In the meantime, I'm trying not to scratch the paint. Thanks for all the emails. Thanks for all the texts. I'll get to those in just a minute. Want to have a word with Carol. We were talking about mortgages. We were talking about the fact that it looks like interest rates are going to rise. And as Abdul was making the point, and I thought very fairly, that this gets into a spiral and it starts to get slightly out of control unless we get hold of it and treat it the right way. Hello, Carol.
Good morning, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm all right. I just finished casework about an hour ago, and I was just listening to the radio to wind down. And appropriately, you're talking about my work, really. I work for, recently started in April for Citizens Advice Bureau as an outreach death and welfare rights advisor. And it's a pilot that's been set up throughout the UK to target people that are possibly financially excluded. By that I mean people with high interest rates, with debt problems, rent arrears, council tax arrears, the usual that you find in inner city areas.
Sure. And
we're finding that I'm extremely busy. I'm trying to bridge the gap between people that would normally visit the Bureau and people that don't. There are a lot of people that don't bother tackling, coming to Citizen Advice Bureau. They think that we're part of the authority. I would like to say that we're not. We are independent. And it's all free. It's free, confidential advice that you get, and it's good quality legal advice.
Well, that's good, because I can remember, a few years back, they were closing down Citizens Advice Bureaus in certain parts of the UK.
Yeah.
So I think it's they cut back too far.
Yes, I mean, we do rely on volunteers running the service in most bureaus. My job is actually a paid job to go outside of the bureau, and as I say, we're targeting areas. So what I wanted to say is, if there are people out there with a debt, don't wait until you're getting county court papers. Don't wait until you've got council tax bailiffs knocking on your door. Don't wait until your mortgage company is repossessing your property. Contact us early. There are always things that can be done to save your property, whether it's rent arrears or whether you've got a mortgage. And my particular, I mean, I love tackling companies that have just been extremely harsh to the general public, and there's a lot of them out there. And it was quite interesting what the other gentleman was saying about mortgage arrears and about interest rates changing regarding your mortgage, because we're finding that within a couple of months of clients being in arrears, they're going to court with possession orders. So that's the first rung of the ladder of a person losing their home.
Yeah.
And personal bankruptcies are up already on last year's figures, and we're only into, well, I know it's early September, but at the Stourbridge Court, for instance, which is only a small court that holds bankruptcy hearings once a week, they're already up 20% on last year's figures for the whole of the year. So what it's going to be at the end of the year is, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah, it's frightening, isn't it?
It is scary, yes, and it seems to be a nationwide trend at the moment. But it was just to let people know, anybody is out there who's not sleeping tonight because of debt, contact your local CAB, and if you can't get in on your local CAB, ask if they've got any of these debt and money advisors that are on outreach venues, and it might be that you can be seen at your local school or at your local Sure Start Children's Centre, or perhaps you could be seen at another venue that we're in, currently working throughout probation services and homeless hostels and women's refuge. I go into all those areas. So it might be that if you can't get into your local CAB office because it is so busy, that you can be seen as an outreach venue.
Thank you for doing that, Carol, because I'm sure there's people listening to us and listening to the subject and thinking, oh dear, it's happening to me.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have to be on your own. There is a free service out there for you, and there's nothing we enjoy more than challenging social policy issues. Again, and debt is one of those. Only this last week I was in court supporting two people who were potentially going to lose their property with rent arrears. And the judges, they're lovely people, I have to say. They're very reasonable. They'll listen to any reasonable offer, and that's the most amazing thing that I've learned from my job, is because I always thought that, oh dear, something goes to court, it's serious, and the judge is going to award in favour of a big company, and it's not the case at all. The judges hate actually having somebody lose their property.
Thank you very much. Thanks for that, Carol. So, if you're in that situation yourself, it's the CAB, Citizens Advice Bureau, and if they don't have somebody at an office, there'll be an outreach program. So your local town hall will give you a referral number. Yeah? Good luck. Okay. My goodness, it's 19 minutes to 3 o'clock. If I weren't having such a good time here. If you'd like to be part of the programme, do use the regular number. It's 08704 20 20 20, or you can text 8 10 89. Thank you very much. This is no time to be dyslexic. Or you can email talkSPORT. Got a whole bunch of nominations for the Hall of Fame. We do those after we've spoken to Joe, who's in Enfield. Hello, Joe.
Hello, Mike.
How are you doing?
Not too good at the moment.
Oh dear.
I just want to talk about first that lady who just spoke just now.
Yeah.
And then onto the main thing, which I think is really most important. So I said to your fellow at the beginning, I'm 59 and I'm lucky because I paid my mortgage off just before I was 50.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. And I, to be quite honest with you, that's the time when they had all the things circulating about your endowment. Mine was an endowment. But let's put it this way. I got quite a son back But what people have got to realise, remember most of all, if you're going to get a loan out, don't tie the house in with it. For Christ's sake, please don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you say you've got a loan off the bank, they'll take your house a lot, and they wouldn't have even felt anything about it.
A friend of mine said something, Joe, which you might find interesting. He said he was talking about similar situation and being urged to borrow money and have some more money and some more money. And he said to me, what you've got to understand, Mike, he said, it's their job to get your house.
Mm.
And when it's put so bluntly as that, then you start to take a notice of it.
Too true, you do.
Yeah.
Right.
So what was the main thing to talk about, Joe?
Well, the main thing is, which is not mostly spoken about, on Friday I'm going to have a meet with my MP, Joan Ryan. She's the Labour MP for Enfield North. Right. She's asked countless, twice I know at least, to the health minister. I have Parkinson's disease. My disease does with the brain, where the cells are dying out. At the moment, I'm completely as stiff as a board on the right-hand side.
Yeah.
So, she's asked twice to the minister, can Parkinson's patients have free medical treatment? That man keeps saying, no, no, no. But if I was diabetes, or the other one, which is similar, I've forgotten the name now.
Diabetes 2.
No, you got the other ones where they can't move their muscles and arms.
Oh.
MS.
MS. Oh, yes.
Diabetics.
And multiple
MS.
sclerosis.
Yeah. I met 2 this week. Diabetics, MS, all get their drugs for nothing. Me, I'm on benefits. I take 13 lines of drugs with other things that's wrong with me. But when she's asked about can people with Parkinson's disease, he said no. Well, I'm going to suggest to Joe that I voted all my life Labour, and if he's good as if they get in again and he's still got the same ideas, then count me out, because you won't be getting my vote no more. You know.
There's a lot of people, Joe, who are looking at the next general election with very, very much hooded eyes, you know, eyes like hooded slits, because they do feel that they're owed. And I do wish you better. And I've obviously not a doctor, but I mean, if you just get fed up in the night and you want to talk, you know, you just got the number, so give us a call. And my best regards to your MP. We'll take a short pause. We'll be back to speak to David, who's in Birmingham. We can't get him out, but we're sending him a bucket and spade. David's in Birmingham. Hello, David.
Hello, Mike.
How you doing?
I'm trying to be as laid back as you.
I said last night, I'm not that laid back, I just think slowly.
No. I'm a very angry person, but I'm trying to be civilized and control it, you know, now that I'm over the age of 50.
I think you can. The Rolling Stones are well over 60. I think, you know, you can let it.
The good thing is that I only look 40. My girlfriend says, yeah.
No.
But I was stimulated to phone you on a serious subject,
yes.
economics, stimulated by your intelligent Scottish caller, Abdul, who mentioned the writer Noam Chomsky, who I don't agree with everything he says. He's very left-wing, but he makes some good analysis. I think what we have to do in the United Kingdom, if the Scottish don't decide to vote SNP and go off on their own, as some Catholic Irish people wanted to do with Northern Ireland, if we can all stick together, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, and Scottish people, English people, and realise that, you know, by the end of this year, we won't be the 4th richest economy in the world. It'll probably be China, Mike.
Oh, yeah, sure. Exactly. But then it's a story of expansion, and then there is contraction.
What we have to do to respond to this silly word globalization is I think, withdraw from the European Union, like Norway. They can decide their own laws. what they spend their taxes on, which is Norwegian people. At the moment, some of our taxes are going to build motorways in Spain. Did you know that?
Yeah, mind you, the original thinking, as I understand it, behind the European Union, a union of territories that were for many, many years, hundreds of years, at war. And here's a chance to end that.
Yeah, but there's no reason why this little group of islands called the United Kingdom, and if I add in the Republic of Ireland as well, by the way, all of us together only produce 2% of the whole planet's carbon dioxide. So whatever we do in the UK plus Republic of Ireland make no difference whatsoever when it's China and India and the USA who are polluting the atmosphere. And this 2% of carbon dioxide produced by these islands is nothing, is it?
No, you're absolutely right. It is 2%. Yeah.
But what I would say in response to Abdul's very good analysis is, I think we have to respond to globalization by going small, buying local, going to a farmer's market, or if that's too far for you, find people growing local fruit and veg. Always wash them before you eat them, of course, with all the pesticides. But a serious thing, I'm rambling now, I'll get to the serious point, which is a major disaster in thinking. The John Major government brought in this thing called the fuel escalator tax, which meant that the tax on diesel and petrol goes up every year. And then I wrote to Gordon Brown. He probably the letter ended up in a waste paper bin of a civil servant. But I also phoned up the Treasury and left him a message, and they said, "Well, why don't you email?" And I said, "I haven't got a computer." So I phoned up and said, "Look, for God's sake, reduce the tax on petrol and diesel. Once it makes economic sense, once the world price goes up, as your Scottish friend was saying, to, $60 a barrel or whatever, that's the time, and you reduce the tax. It makes sense to reduce the tax on petrol and diesel, because if they don't, inflation goes up, then the Bank of England committee will then put interest rates up to 5%, everyone's mortgages will be more, as that very kind lady from the Citizens Advice Bureau said, there's already literally hundreds of thousands of people in the UK who are in mortgage arrears."
Oh, for sure. And there's an earlier caller also mentioned interest-only mortgages. So they have the benefit of leaving you with a nice surprise that will make you wide awake in the morning.
So do you agree with me? This is a major mistake in thinking by the John Major government and then by Gordon Brown to increase the tax on diesel and petrol. I mean,